I'm good.
Mic check, mic check. You can read about success all day long, but if you don't put in the work, the mindset, execution, and the hustle behind your vision, it just remains a dream.
When everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
We uncover what high-level entrepreneurs, business owners do to rise up from hustling daily.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Join me as I share with you actionable tips to help you grow your business, learn skills, and help you level up in your self-development journey.
Your number one spot for business and personal growth is the Online Hustlers Podcast with your host, Esteban Andrade.
All right, everyone that is listening to this new podcast episode of the REIpreneurs podcast, it's a podcast made for diamond players, type of entrepreneurs in the real estate investing space. And we want to share everything. We don't want to hold anything back. And everything that we're going to teach you is actually proven. There is frameworks and there is processes that we can do today from this episode that you can apply to your business, or if you're even considering another type of business in the real estate space, adding it as a secondary income, or just making it your first type of entrepreneurship, this is a perfect episode for you. In the last few episodes, we have interviewed big people in the REI space, from wholesalers, flippers, and so on. So if you have liked those episodes at all, then you can always leave a review, very easy, and share this podcast with anyone that you feel like they should be able to get this free information, right? So in this episode today, I'm going to introduce you guys someone that is specialized in an arena, in a place that a lot of people don't do, but he became a millionaire in the REI space. And he also has helped a lot of people. We actually met in Family Mastermind, which is a mastermind that is made for exclusive, high-level, top-level entrepreneurs in the real estate investing space. And today I have my friend here, Alex Prado. What's going on, brother? How's everything going?
My man, I am blessed. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So appreciate the opportunity to connect and just have a conversation.
I love it, man. So the first thing I would love to kind of know and kind of understand from you, and people like you, right? Like we come in from a place where we had to really grind up, work out ourselves all the way up to the top, where we currently find ourselves helping a lot of people and having successful businesses, 7-figure businesses, right? And sometimes we come to realize that the journey is being hard, but the journey is very worth it. We had an episode together in your podcast, but tell me more about what were you doing before you actually became a successful REI entrepreneur. What were you doing before you actually even got your first million? And like,
it's interesting. I come from a middle-class family. I'm so grateful for my parents and for the support growing up. But I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. You know, I was taught at an early age the old school mindset of go and, get a good education so you can get a good job and get a good salary and all that kind of stuff. But I always felt like I was kind of wired a little bit differently inside. I've always been very ambitious. I've had a strong desire to want to help and impact people and live a certain lifestyle. And so when I graduated from FIU here in Miami, I took a job with General Electric in their financial management program, and thinking that I one day wanted to be a CFO or a CEO of a big company. And I quickly realized that world was just not for me. I always say I'm not good at a lot of things, but there's a few things that I'm pretty good at. And one of those is getting clarity about what I want by figuring out what I don't want, and then reverse engineering my path towards whatever goal or aspiration I'm after. And I remember looking at my boss, Esteban, all the way up the ladder. And I said, I don't want to work for somebody. I want to create. I want to impact. And I didn't feel like I was doing that working in corporate finance. So it was a 2-year program. I finished that up. I ended up quitting my job. Did not really have a plan. So I decided to backpack around Europe for 3.5 months. Visited 53 cities in 22 countries in 3.5 months on a $7,000 budget, all funded by my credit card. And it was while I was on the Eurorail, which is the train that takes you from European city to European city, that I really started to immerse myself in books that changed my life. A lot of the classics like Think and Grow Rich. And one of the common themes and denominators I saw were that very successful, wealthy people had real estate in their portfolio. That was a big part of their wealth. And I've always liked real estate. I like numbers. And so I said, when I move back to Miami, I'm going to get involved in real estate. Not really knowing what wholesaling was or, buying. Like I didn't know. I just knew I was going to commit to real estate. So I ended up going to a marketing for deals bootcamp. And this was October of 2005, where we learned about how to market for deals. And we learned about pre-foreclosures and short sales. And dude, I remember getting home, by the way, moved back in with my parents at 25 years old, didn't have any money, like just not the way I drew it up, right? So I had a lot of motivation to really figure my stuff out. I took out a pre-foreclosure letter. I went to Kinko's, made 300 to 400 copies. And I remember still seeing the 3 black holes from the photocopies. And I remember sitting at my parents' kitchen counter, writing out envelopes and sending out my first pre-foreclosure direct mail campaign. And a little bit less than 3 months later, I ended up closing my first deal. And between myself and a partner, we made $44,000. So that's what I was doing prior to real estate. And that's kind of how I transitioned into the space.
Yeah. How many deals have you done so far in either flips, wholesales? Like, what would you say, like ever since you started, how many have you done?
Man, I'm going to give you a guesstimate because the truth is, I don't know the exact number. I stopped counting years ago, but it has to be, for sure, it's north of 750, probably 800 at this point. But probably somewhere between 800 and 1,000 deals I think I've done in my career.
800 and 1,000 deals. Okay. And were all of these were self-storage, or majority of them were just single families?
No, the majority were single family. So I spent the first 15 years of my career in the single family space, and I've done all types of deals, but really my bread and butter was wholesaling. And about 4 years ago, after realizing that wholesaling was such a transactional business that no longer fit my goals, my vision, what I wanted to accomplish, I transitioned into the self-storage space. So yeah, the bulk of those deals are single family. And in the last 3.5 to 4 years, I've really been focused on self-storage.
So what did you see in self-storage that really you didn't find in wholesaling? Like, what was that biggest thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many answers to that question, but I'll start here. Storage is a real business that has the benefits of real estate. It's not a transactional business. In other words, in wholesaling, I got tired of starting from scratch every month to do multiple deals. In storage, you are 1, 2, maybe 3 good facilities away from it having a very significant impact on your life and on your financial situation. But giving you more specifics, think about how sticky of a product storage is, right? When somebody moves into one of our facilities, the average length of stay is just over 3 years. And they pay anywhere on average between $50 and $350 a month. And they pay that month in, month out. So I like the fact that I wasn't dealing with tenants. I wasn't dealing with toilets. I wasn't dealing with trash or really crazy rehabs and repairs. And I like the very consistent, predictable cash flow that storage provided. When I started building a rental portfolio, thinking that was going to be my path to wealth, I was dealing with tenants and toilets and work orders and roofs that I had to replace and furnaces and all this stuff that for me just wasn't a fit. So I started building a small rental portfolio. Again, like my corporate finance job, quickly realized this is not the path for me. So I sold those rentals. And yeah, man, storage for me is just an asset class that provides time freedom. It gives you the option to do many things that you may want to do.
Okay, that's awesome. So was there any skill sets that you actually earned while doing wholesaling that would quickly transfer over to self-storage, or was there anything different that you actually had to learn compared to this other business?
Such a good question. The majority of the skills that I acquired and sharpened while I was wholesaling, so specifically marketing and lead generation, negotiations, even acquisitions and dispositions, very similar. I would say the one distinct difference between single family and storage is how you evaluate the opportunity, right? In single family, the value of a property is based on the comparables, on the comps, right? What are the other properties like in the area selling for? Well, in commercial, and storage is just an asset class within commercial, the value is based on the income the asset produces. So how you evaluate the opportunity is a little bit differently. But one of the things I tell people all the time is that I truly believe, Esteban, that storage is not a shiny object, and everyone should have storage as a part of their portfolio, because the same marketing you are doing for your single family homes is the same exact marketing we do for storage. All the deals I've gotten have come from direct mail, cold calling, relationships, social media. Like everything I did in single family translated very smoothly over into storage.
Now, let's talk about, like, for instance, so you going into self-storage. Let's talk about the way that you get paid, the way that you grow the business, right? Usually there's three ways. You get more clients to buy your product, you get bigger clients or clients to pay you more than the regular, and ultimately increase the lifetime value. And then you get repeated customers, right? So with self-storage, can you explain to us, how do you ultimately make money there? That is a game changer, because wholesaling is a lot of one-time payment for a lot of the things. You rarely get more than one house from one seller. You may get some buyers that repeatedly buy from you, but again, they're only helping you in the dispositions, the end of the process, while you need customers to pay you more. So, like, how's self-storage? Tell me more about, like, that monetization aspect.
Yeah, so I'll answer that in a couple different ways. One of the things, if structured properly, that you can get from self-storage that I could never get from wholesaling, at least not the way I did it, was you can get cash now, you can get cash flow, and you can get cash later, right? So people talk about storage, and cash flow is a big part of it. But what I have come to realize is that the equity play, in other words, the upside in the value that you can create in storage, is really where the money's at. We get to do something called forced appreciation. So how I just talked about the value of the facility is based on the income it produces. Well, what I didn't know when I transitioned into storage is that there's a lot of fees that we can charge in order to boost the net operating income, which has a direct correlation to the value of the property. So things like auction fees, late fees, lock fees, gate fees, all of those things, in addition to rent, really increase the net operating income. So we look for something called value add opportunities. That, in a nutshell, is just an industry term to say we look for a property that, let's just say something, a light value add, something very easy is, we come across a lot of mom and pop storage owners that have not raised the rates on their customers in years. So we look for mom and pop storage facilities in secondary or rural markets that they're not treating it like a business, Esteban. You would be surprised, brother, how many mom and pop operators we connect with that don't even have a website. They don't have any technology or automation. They haven't raised the rates in years. They might not have security or lighting, basic things that we can go in there and add to increase the value, increase the rent, and ultimately increase the value of the facility. So to answer your question directly, one of the ways we make money is through cash flow, by going in and identifying facilities in markets where there's more demand for storage than there is supply, going in and implementing our marketing systems, raising the rates, adding certain things that mom and pop operator either didn't know to do or was too lazy to do. And then we increase the value. You can turn around and sell that. Like, I'll give you an example. Over the last less than 80 days, so September 4th of this year, October 31st of this year, within the last 60 to 80 days, I've sold 2 facilities. The first facility I bought for $1.592 million, didn't use any of my own money. We got 85% SBA financing, and then I brought in an equity partner for the 15% that we needed. We bought it for just under 1.6. I just sold that for 2.495. Now, not all of that was pure net profit, because we had a broker commission, we had some closing costs. My equity partner got some of his seed capital back, but we still did very, very well on that sale. So not only did we get cash flow for the time that we owned it, but we also got a pretty big equity pop when we sold it. Same exact thing with the other facility that I sold in September. I raised 100% of the money. I bought it for 1.2. We sold it for 1.990. And 100% of that was raised by private money. So while we got some cash flow during the year and a half that we owned it, it was an equity play for us. And now the idea is to take that cash and roll it into a facility in a better market.
When you find a lead, when you find a potential mom and pop seller that potentially wants to essentially sell that entire facility to you, how long does it take to actually do the entire process and acquire that? Like,
Yeah.
does it take like a few weeks, months?
No, good question. Typically, I would say between 60 and 90 days,
Okay.
right? So like the very first facility I bought, it took about 70 to 80 days, somewhere in that range. Even though we got SBA financing, we were moving pretty quickly. I would say 2 to 3 months is pretty average. The fastest I have bought and sold a facility, which was a wholesale deal, was last year in September of 23. From the moment I contracted the facility to the moment my cash buyer closed was like 28, 29 days. That is not typical. That is not common, because in storage, keep in mind you're buying a business and there's a due diligence process. So you have to verify the rent roll. You have to verify like all of the P&L, the profit and loss statement. You have to verify the management summary report, utilities. Like there's a lot of things that you have to go through in due diligence. So it's very common to have a due diligence period of 30 to 60 days. And then sometimes you're getting bank financing. So to answer your question, 60 to 90 days I would say is pretty average to close these facilities.
Okay, that's good. So I actually saw you posted something on Facebook. It was a very good post, and people can go and watch it. We can potentially have the link of your Facebook profile. But you posted on how to find these mom and pop people using Google Maps, right?
Mhm.
Facilities, people that are, really don't have a really good website, which would correlate on opportunities from upside on doing all this new value add, ultimately adding fees, upgrading the product, essentially making the product more expensive because they should go up with inflation. They should go up with the value that you can create. So if you were to give me like a quick masterclass right here, how do we find these people? Like the different ways that you do it, and that correctly, that if with efficacy we can get these people in the next 2 weeks to talk to us. Like how what's the quickest and best way that you do it right now?
This can be done in less than a minute, and this can also be easily outsourced to a virtual assistant. And working with Esteban and like his team of assistants, like this is so simple. Go to Google Maps. So maps.google.com, right? That is step one. Step two is type in any city where you're interested in potentially buying storage, right? So it could be any city in the country, doesn't really matter. Type that in and then hit enter. There's a little circle in the middle that says nearby. Click on nearby and then type in the words storage or self-storage. And when you hit enter, what that is going to do, and I think I see Esteban kind of doing this live, what that is going to do is Google is going to bring up a bunch of red dots. That is called the Google Map Pack. Essentially, that is telling you these are the storage facilities that Google recognizes. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a list of all the facilities in and around that market. There's 4 things immediately that I look at. I look at number 1, any facilities that do not have a website. How do you know if it has a website? Well, if it has a website, you're going to see a circle and then it says website right below it. If you don't see that, that means that storage facility, that owner does not have a website. Now, why is that important, Esteban? More than 70% of our customers come from online, whether that be search engine optimization or pay-per-click marketing. Like we run what's called an unmanned model. So people do not walk into our storage facility, walk into the office and talk to somebody. Because of technology and automation, everything is done digitally on their phone, mobile, or on a laptop, or they call our call center, which is the third-party management company has that. So I look for facilities that don't have a website. I look for facilities that have poor Google reviews or that don't have any Google reviews. Google reviews are extremely important in self-storage. People go guided by that. So if I come across a facility that doesn't have a website, or maybe they do, but they have 1 star, 2 star, 6 stars, like that's not a lot. That tells me, that is a sign that is a mom and pop storage owner operator that is not taking advantage of very simple tweaks that they can implement in order to generate more leads, get more customers, and ultimately make more money. I also look for poor Google reviews. So anything under 4.5 stars is a sign that it's the equivalent of driving by a house that has tall grass and a stuffed mailbox. That could mean it's vacant. That could mean it's in disrepair. That could mean a lot of different things. Out-of-state owner. This is the equivalent. These are signs that this person is not really treating this like a business. And then okay. I like to, when they have a website, I like to go to the website. I'll go to the contact us section. And whenever I see at gmail.com, at Yahoo, at AOL, any of these types of email providers, that is a strong indicator that it's a mom and pop owner. So I'll either contact them on the message there, but I love to smile and dial. It is so easy to get in contact with these mom and pop owners just by picking up the phone and calling them for free.
Okay. So what is it usually that this mom and pop business operators that are not fully operating their business well, what is it that really entices them? Like usually homeowners, they want to sell their house because they are in trouble and there is something going on, and then we can offer cash for their home or like sell their house. But do they necessarily want to sell this, or do you have to ultimately give them a no-brainer offer to take over this business? How does this work?
Yeah, good question. The answer is it depends. I would say 80 to 90% of the time, Esteban, the reason that a storage owner is interested in selling is because you're getting ready to retire. In every single situation where I bought a facility, that owner was somewhere between the ages of 60 and 80. They had been owning and running that operation for decades, and they're getting ready to retire. They're done. I yet have to experience an owner that is financially distressed. I'm not saying that's not possible. I'm saying it's not as common as a quote unquote motivated homeowner or motivated seller, right? And with single family, oftentimes these people are emotionally attached to the property. They're in financial distress. The property's in physical distress. It could be circumstantial. Maybe they're getting relocated for a job. In storage, my experience has been that more times than not, they're just done. They're just ready to move on. Now, I will say that storage has gotten more competitive in terms of what sellers want for these assets today than if we were having this conversation prior to COVID, right? And I will tell you, because this is a limiting belief people have, there's over 30,000 mom and pop storage facilities in the country. There is more than enough opportunity for people out there, and it's sitting right under your nose. So whether it's jumping on Google Maps to identify the mom and pop owners, if you're driving, right? Like if you're going out of town, or if you happen to live in a pretty small market, anytime you see a storage facility, take a picture, pick up the phone and call. Because more times than not, you're going to speak to the owner, or you're going to speak to a manager who is like basically like side by side with the owner. Think about single family. I can't, unless I skip trace, I can't just go online and call a homeowner. I mean, it might require some digging, and you could use white pages and certain tools like that. But with storage, it's just a lot easier. And the conversation, by the way, is significantly easier because it's a business owner. It's a numbers game to them. And usually there's no emotional attachment to that asset.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the acquisition methods that you currently have in order to acquire this, right? So what's the most common acquisition method? Seller finance, you offer cash, and then you have to raise capital. Like what are the most common ones?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a common one per se, because I've structured deals many different ways. I love seller financing. Whenever I can get seller financing, that is, in fact, so I own a facility in Amelia Island, which is just north of Jacksonville. That was purchased with 90% seller financing. We got some great terms. My very first deal, like I mentioned, was SBA, Small Business Administration. And I've also done regular bank financing where you have to put anywhere between 20 and 30% down, and then the bank will finance 70 to 80%. I also like just private money, other people's money. Equity partnerships is pretty common, right? So I think the big takeaway here is a couple different things. Number one is I would want people watching this, Esteban, to have the belief that there are multiple ways to get deals done and get them structured. The second thing is dispelling the myth that you need tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars in your bank account in order to do these deals. Every single deal I have done, I haven't had to use my personal own money. It doesn't mean I don't need capital, but you just have to know how to have access to capital and structure these deals.
Yes. So let's talk about that. Like, who do we have to have in the Rolodex when we are funding these opportunities? Let's say next week I have an opportunity coming out. Like, who should I have in my Rolodex of people or investors, capital partners, whatever, in order to make this deal happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me backtrack and say it's not necessarily who you should have, but it's more about making sure that you communicate to people that you are looking at opportunities. So I'm a big advocate of something that was shared with me years ago that always stuck with me is dig your well before you're thirsty. Mm-hmm. In other words, I don't go search for the deal, then try to go find the money. Mm-hmm. I plant seeds with people on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that I am a storage investor operator and that I come across opportunities every so often and I present opportunities and I get to know what people want. Like what do you deem is a worthy investment? What goals do you have? I try to find that out. And I truly believe, brother, that 99.999% of people have all of the money they need for no matter how many real estate deals they want to do, single family or storage, right in your smartphone, right? The question is, are you planting enough seeds and are you digging your well before you're thirsty? Are you having conversations with people about what you do and how they could benefit? This is super important that I want to share with people. Because storage, the pie is much bigger, you do not have to wear all the hats to all different aspects of the deal. I am an operator from start to finish, right? I coach people now and teach them the business on how they can find their first facility within 6 to 12 months. Having said that, I've spoken to people that say, hey, Alex, I don't want to learn this business from A to Z, but I'm really, really good at marketing and generating leads. How can I get involved? Those people can carve out equity just by generating leads, doing the very thing that they already know how to do in their single family business. Yeah. There might be some people that know how to raise capital. Well, that's valuable. You can raise capital for a storage deal and not have to worry about anything else and negotiate and carve out equity and cash flow in these deals. Maybe you're a really, really good connector. So I just put a post on my social media today on Facebook about the importance of making sure that everybody takes time to write down an inventory log of their assets and resources, right? So like Esteban, like we met several months ago. Like, I'll give you an example. You're a people person. Like you're very outgoing. You're an extrovert. That is an asset, right? You know how to communicate and reach out to people. That doesn't like intimidate you in any way. You have a deep network. That is an asset. You have a podcast. That is an asset. So people might be thinking, well, I'm not Esteban. I'm an introvert, or I don't have a podcast. No matter who you are, you have assets and resources that you can leverage to get involved in this business. You just have to have clarity about what that is, and then you're only limited by your thinking. So think about what value you can bring to the table, and then figure out how you can get involved in these deals if what you want to do is not be an operator per se.
Okay. All right. So let's say, for instance, you get to talk with the mom and pop type of facility owner right now. What does a conversation usually look like when you start this?
Yeah. First thing, whenever I cold call, when the person doesn't know me from a can of paint, I always stand. So right now I'm recording this, I'm standing. I believe that there's different energy in your voice when you're standing versus you're sitting. And I would encourage people to try it, right? So I stand, shoulders out, I communicate with confidence. And when I call, I immediately identify my name, who I am, and why I'm calling within the first 10 seconds. Nice. And one of the things I like to do is I will acknowledge that it's a cold call, because people don't like cold calling. Like, I don't know about you, but whenever I get a cold call, I feel like my job is to get off the phone as quickly as possible in the most polite way possible. At least that's me. So I will call and say, hey, Esteban, I realize this call is out of the blue. My name is Alex. My wife and I are looking for a storage facility, and I came across your facility on Google, and I'll compliment them. looks like a really nice facility, looks like you've done a great job, whatever feels authentic and genuine. I'll never lie. And then I will never ask them if they're interested in selling their property. I like to take a different approach. If you are looking for your first facility, humble yourself. Let them know that you are actively searching for the right opportunity and you would love the opportunity to ask an experienced storage owner like yourself a question or two. What I have found is that the majority of the time, unless you just catch them at a bad time, they're very open to answering some questions and helping you out. I use that as an opportunity to learn and bridge a gap and start to build a relationship with that person, right? Eventually in that conversation, I will ask them, Esteban, clearly you're super well connected and it sounds like you've done an amazing job with this facility and you know a lot of people. Do you happen to know anybody that owns a facility that might consider selling? And then what's interesting is that I think underneath the layers, that creates a little bit of scarcity in that person. And I would probably say 30 to 40% of the time, they will say, well, I might consider selling, ... And then now you've entered into a different part of that conversation. Or they might actually give you a referral or a lead, which happens pretty often. Like, actually, you might want to reach out to this person. I think at one point they were interested in selling. And worst case scenario, you don't get either of those, but you built a relationship and you took time to acknowledge them, appreciate them. You asked them some questions because people like to talk about themselves and whatever they've accomplished. And you start to build a relationship. So whenever I call, I'm never trying to buy the deal. I'm not trying to get that deal under contract on that phone call. I'm just merely seeking to connect with that person. And oftentimes, if you have that mindset and you just follow up, they will think of you because just doing that separates you from a lot of people that reach out to them.
Okay, got it. So now most of this operator businesses, they already have some sort of Google My Business profile, right? But
sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes they don't have a Google My Business.
Can we find them also in another social media? Do they have LinkedIn, or maybe they have, I don't know, some sort of other social media like Facebook or something where they're hanging out at?
100%. So here are a couple things I do. In Facebook, I'll go to Facebook Marketplace and I'll pull up a particular region or city or whatever, and I will send direct messages. I'll send DMs to store. Now, in these marketplaces, you're likely not going to find a facility for sale. Here's what you will find. You will find storage owners advertising their units for rent. So I have 10 by 10s, I have 10 by 15s, I have 10 by 20s. Send them a message. The same exact way you would get in contact by filling out their web form online is you send them a DM through Facebook. You can do the same exact thing in LinkedIn by searching for the word storage, right? So these are all free and easy ways that you can get in contact with these mom and pop operators.
I was just looking at LinkedIn on storage facility, and then to see what do I find, like what type of people have that in their profile. And there's a few, right? Like there's a few people that are experts on facility or facility specialists or whatever. But so there's still a lot of people in here. I was just trying to see how you can even reach out to those, operators that there might be an opportunity. All right, so let's talk about
one thing. I'll quickly say a lot of these old school operators always refer to storage as mini warehouses or mini storage. So those are keywords that you can put in social media to try to bring up some of these opportunities. The other quick thing I'll mention is don't discount Google. Google self-storage for sale in a particular city, and then don't focus on like the first 15, 20 like results. Go deep into Google, whether it's page 4, 5, 6. Here's what you're looking for. You're looking for MaryJoanneRealty.com, some random obscure little like realtor or broker in the middle of nowhere that doesn't know to put a storage facility on LoopNet or Crexi, which is like the commercial MLS, and they have it listed on their website, and or they have it listed in the multiple listing service where a storage facility doesn't belong. Those are always opportunities.
No, okay. What are the biggest juices, let's say, opportunities? So people that don't have a really good website, I guess, when you see their prices are not what they're supposed to do? Like, what are these few things that
Mhm.
immediately, let's say you're creating a list of, you have a virtual assistant, you pay the virtual assistant to scrape a bunch of people so that we can start calling, messaging, sending an email. Like, what are the ones that are the juiciest type of opportunity?
Yeah. First of all, I would tell you exclude anything that is a class A. If it's a beautiful looking facility like Public Storage, Extra Space, Life Storage, Cube Smart, exclude those. Those
Yeah.
are owned by the REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trust. That is not the
Mhm.
type of facility we're looking for. We're looking for mom and pop. I typically look in markets that have a population between 1,000 people and 60, 70,000 people. I like the population to be increasing over time. And this is key. I like the medium household income in those markets to be $50,000 and up. Okay. I made the mistake of being in a market where it was significantly lower than that, and you're going to have more collections issues and different challenges that I don't recommend. So that's key. Basically, what I shared before, I'll add anything to my list that looks and feels like a mom and pop, but specifically, I will focus on ones that don't have a website, where they have little to no Google reviews, or they have poor Google reviews. Like, that is a very easy way to start building your list. And we
Mhm.
have a virtual assistant do this state by state by state, just following like that post that I shared that people
Yeah.
can check out on my Facebook, or what I just outlined is a very simple step-by-step instruction for a VA on a Google spreadsheet to start building a list.
Okay, that makes total sense. And what would you say? What would you say the normal operator would object you on about just even the simple opportunity of like buying their facility? Like, what are the most common things that they need to make sure that they see on from you? Like, maybe some sort of credibility, maybe some sort of like actual proof that you have funds, or like, what is it that they
Man,
would want to really see?
I'm going to surprise you. I've never once, not even one time, had a storage owner ask me for a proof of funds or ask me for any type of proof or credibility. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen. It certainly could. I just haven't experienced that. You know what they
Mhm.
want to know? That you're willing to pay their price on their terms, right? And that's where the relationship comes into play. That's where basic sales, understanding their motivation, right? So if they want to retire, what's important to them about retiring? Do they want to travel? Do they want to spend time with grandchildren,
Yeah.
right? Do they want to travel with their loved ones, their wife? They want to go visit their kid in college. Like, these are all things I've heard.
Yeah.
So basic sales, understanding what is important to them and then speaking to them in terms of their needs and greeds.
Right.
Talking to them in the future. What's their picture perfect scenario once they've sold this facility, right? By the way, I will oftentimes ask them, what are their plans for the funds, and would they want to earn a return on those funds? And sometimes turning the seller into the bank, seller financing. Like if I could get them their price, would you consider taking payments over time without
Yeah.
having the hassles of ownership and taxes and insurance and blah, 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 blah. So I haven't had any questions or objections around like, hey, Esteban, like, how do I know you know the storage business? Like, what does your portfolio look like? Or let me see your proof of funds. Never once have been asked that question.
Okay.
So they just want to know, like, are you able to meet them where they'd like to be at?
That makes a lot of sense. Um, and once you start, let's say you put together the funds, you put together the capital and so on. You usually keep this storages for a year and a half before you actually sell it, or like, what's your play right there?
Yeah. Yeah. I will, one of the things that was taught to me years ago by a coach was always determine the exit strategy before you enter the acquisition.
Hmm.
Right. So when I bought the two facilities in Mississippi, I knew that was a market that I didn't want to be in long term. So my
Hmm.
plan there was to go in there, raise the value of the facility, which we successfully did, turn around, sell it, then take that equity, take that cash, and put it into a better opportunity in a better market. Right. I have also put properties under contract where I knew my plan was to wholesale that. My very first deal, Esteban, I partnered up with two friends of mine, and we ended up making a $99,000 wholesale fee. So split between 3 people. I made 33 grand. Here's the cool thing. We still own 15% equity in that facility today, and it's been almost 4 years ago. Nice. So in storage, it's not uncommon to make a wholesale fee and retain some equity and ownership in that deal. So yeah, to answer your question, it depends is the answer. It depends on the facility. It depends on the market. Like the one that we own in Florida, the plan is to hold that one long-term. Like that is a quality asset in a great area, very simple and easy to manage. It cash flows. That's why I got into storage, not necessarily the burn and churn that I was used to in wholesaling.
Right. So what are the few, let's say a rule of thumb things that you would do immediately to a facility to raise the prices, add value, and then, like a few of the investments that, it's like a plug and play. Okay. Like we know that these are the few things that I got to do right now.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I like to have an automated gate. Why? Because when a customer stops paying their rent, their gate code stops working and they're not really able to access the facility. I have a boots on the ground person that puts an overlock on their unit. So they have high incentive to pay. And if they don't, here's a cool thing about storage. You know how in single family, if somebody doesn't pay rent, you have to go through a long eviction process and it costs some money, costs some thousands of dollars. In storage, we have lien laws, which means that depending on where the facility is located, on average, between 60 and 70 days, as long as we've followed certain steps of notifying them, all we have to do is auction their things, and then we clean out the unit and put it back online to rent. So what do? We put an automated gate. We typically put in cameras and a new lighting system. You want to make sure that at night your facility is very well lit. We'll typically invest in a sign that can be seen from the road, like a nice big sign. We'll put some signs in the gate. Those are some of the common things that we invest in, but usually it's not super significant. Like I think the first facility where we put a brand new gate, cameras, and lighting, I think we were all in for under $37,000.
Oh wow!
And that was on a 43,000 square foot facility with 7 buildings. So yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And the monthly fees that you guys do, how do you guys compare it to the market so that you're able to like actually keep the premium clients and just, the ones that are not really willing to pay the most amount? I guess you'll have to filter them out, right? Because like you'll have to raise prices, or do you keep all the price, or you grandfather prices to all the people that use the facility?
No, we certainly do not grandfather. There's a couple different ways you can approach that. There's the mindset where it's like, let's say, for example, a 10 by 10 unit, like let's say they're charging $50 a month for a 10 by 10, but you take the average of what's called the street rates. Like, let's say you look at the competitors within a 5-mile radius and you see that the average of a 10 by 10 is $75 or $80, right? Mm-hmm. There's one approach that's like rip the Band-Aid off on all of the 10 by 10s and raise them right to street value, average of this, or slightly below. There's another approach that is doing it in segments. Like you don't want to do it on all your customers because you might have more vacancy, people leaving. I like ripping the Band-Aid off personally. I typically will still keep them under market. Because think about it, Esteban, if you're at my storage facility and you're paying $50 a month for a 10 by 10 and the average of the market is $75 and I raise you to 70, are you really going to move all your stuff out to go pay 75 somewhere else? Probably not. Like you're still below the average of the market rents. So I like the approach of taking them right below the average. And then typically every 9 months is when we're adjusting the rates. I mean, we keep an eye on rate management every single month, but if we increase someone, generally speaking, we're not increasing them again for another 9 months or so.
Okay. That makes sense. And so is this more also you have to be able to learn pricing strategies or pricing, I guess, being able to raise it in a way that people would still buy it, still go to that facility. And is there any add-ons that you end up doing to make sure that you guys get more money out of the same customer? Or
yeah, for sure. There's something called tenant protection, which basically means that the customer has the contents within the unit It's not insured, but they have protection on that up to $2,000. Here's the cool thing with that. We charge them, well, when I say we, there's a company that we partner with that charges them $14 a month. So per customer every single month, we get usually between 50 and 70% of that revenue. So simple math. If they're paying $14 a month, we get $7 a month and we don't do a thing. The company services that, right? If they're late, there's a late fee. If they want to access the facility 24/7, there's a fee for that, for 24/7 access. Auction fees. If we have to clean out their unit, there's a clean out fee. So there's a lot of different fees like that, and it increases the value of the facility because all of that trickles down to the net operating income.
That makes total sense. Usually, when you purchase these facilities, or when you acquire these facilities, however you do, what's the usual amount of money that one, or a usual amount of time that one, let's say a storage user, right, would stay within that facility or have been using that facility, like the length, the lifetime value, compared to what you do for the facilities once you do a revamp? Like how long does it actually change the LTV of each user, if each client? Do you know?
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question, but here's what I do know. The majority of our customers, the length of stay is usually somewhere between 2.5 and a little bit over 3 years. So
Okay.
for simple math, let's just call it 2.5 years conservatively. If not 3 years is the average length of stay.
That's
Right.
a long time.
It is. And now, so you ask yourself, why is it a long time? I've asked myself this, and we've polled customers. There's a couple different reasons. Number one, if you provide a clean and safe environment for your customers, more times than not, unless they just don't need storage or they're moving out or something, they are not going to leave you. Why? Think about if you were to move your stuff into a 10 by 20 unit, right? What would it take, Esteban, for you to move all of your stuff out? You need a truck or a U-Haul. You need to bother friends and family or hire a moving company. You need to go there on a Saturday or Sunday morning and spend hours there cleaning your stuff out. In other words, the pain of disconnect is very high. Secondly, it's a sticky product. Like, they're not going to go to another competitor unless it's an unsafe, dirty facility and your customer service sucks. Nobody is going to move for a $5 increase, especially if they're going to pay the same thing or similar at another competitor. And then lastly, it's a nuisance expense. So in storage, think about what they pay. They pay anywhere on average between $50 and $350. For most people, that is not going to make or break you. You know how many friends of mine have stuff in storage that I asked them, how long have you been there? Dude, I've been there 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm like, have you done the math on how much you pay that facility every month? Is the stuff inside even worth it? And most of the time they say no. They've paid thousands of dollars throughout the years. You know, I got a buddy that's paying $250 a month for a 10 by 20. And he's like, I don't even know what I have in there. I'm like, why are you throwing your money away? Just move out. He's like, but it's a pain in the ass.
Right. So do you, whenever you, get these facilities, right? Do you also have to attract your own customers after that, or they have repeated customers?
No, for sure. So there's a couple different ways. We do pay-per-click marketing. So we have a vendor that we've partnered with that specializes in PPC. Google My Business is very important. So we work with a company that incentivizes Google reviews. We also do some guerrilla marketing stuff, right? Like, so we've done signs on the road. We've done bandit signs. Sometimes you can partner with local businesses like dry cleaners, convenience stores, things of that nature to let them know. We'll incentivize sometimes these owners to get like a unit half off or maybe even a free unit if we're able to advertise there. So there's a lot of things like that you can do. But again, more than 70% of our customers come from online.
Okay. That makes total sense. So definitely running Google ads, definitely doing a lot of work in Google My Business and Google Maps.
Yes.
Those are the ways that these businesses get their customers, or so the facility grow after you already have acquired, right? So
Correct.
is the process to actually add value to these facilities in the first few months and then start thinking about client acquisition? Or like, do you do client acquisition from the
Simultaneously
day one?
from day
Or
one.
day one.
Simultaneously from day one.
Simultaneously. So
Yep.
adding value and client acquisition
Correct. Yep. 100%.
is very interesting, man. 30,000 storage unit facilities in the
Over.
United States.
Yeah.
Over.
Somewhere north of 30,000, not storage facilities, mom and pop storage facilities.
Has anyone ever created like a marketplace of storage facilities that
That's a really good question. Not that I'm aware of. I feel like I should know the answer to that, and I don't want to BS you. I don't know. I mean, look, you can jump on Crexy and LoopNet, right? And then you can just filter by self-storage, but that's only going to tell you the storage facilities that are like on the market per se, or the ones that used to be on the market. But is there a database of like all the storage facilities in the country? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest. That might exist, but if it does, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, got it. No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I'm creating I'm into the world of marketplaces now because I have the marketplace of remote Latinos. So we're trying to get majority of active Latin American remote workers that want to work here in the US in there. And it's always, it's part of the game of, but it's always an acquisition of users too. So
Yeah.
I was asking because if you have a marketplace of storage facilities, like, and then already someone owns it, like, why can't you just partner up with them so that the storage facility acquisition happens because they already have a lot of data? Well, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought process, and man, if you decide to go down that path, think of your boy. So
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm gonna go that path. I was just like
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
But, well, man, this was great. Is there anything that maybe you have missed that people may want to know or may need to know?
Well, I'd like to, if I can, Esteban, a give for anybody watching, and zero strings attached. Like there's no hidden funnel here or anything like that.
Yeah.
If you guys text the word storage and then put in Esteban in parentheses, just so that I know you came from Esteban's show, text the word storage, Esteban, to 305 318 6213. 305-318-6213. I'll have my assistant send you over a Dropbox with a bunch of valuable resources that I use today to acquire storage facilities. I'm talking about my exact direct mail letter that has been responsible for 2 deals I've purchased and a wholesale, my purchase agreement, some training in there that I've done, like showing you specifically how you can locate these mom and pop operators, and a few other resources in there. It's just a Dropbox link. We'll just send it to you. Again, zero strings attached. And then if anybody's interested in having a conversation about getting involved in storage, we do have a coaching program where we teach people from A to Z how to acquire their first facility within 6 to 12 months. That's www.storagewins.com, WINS, storagewins.com.
Nice. So you essentially, it's more of a hand-holding type of process. I'll help you help them a lot on the education, making stuff happen. You guys meet with them. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's not information, it's more transformation. And what I mean by that is, like, let's be honest, like people can jump on YouTube and podcasts and get a bunch of content. I mean, we just shared an hour worth of content, but it's more the accountability, it's the instruction, it's the step-by-step guidance. We do group coaching calls on Zoom every single week. And then we have an online support system where we answer people's questions. Again, it's more of a coaching step-by-step guidance along the way.
That's amazing. So 305, what's the number again?
Yeah, 305-318-6213. Text the word storage, Esteban. That way I know you came from the show, and we'll send you over some of these resources.
Text the word storage. All right, I'm putting here in the comment. Sorry, not in the comments, in a banner so that people can see it right in here. 305.
Yeah. Put in your last or your name, Esteban, just so that I know that they came from you. But yeah,
all right.
Storage.
So put in Esteban, storage, Esteban. All right, sounds great. Thank you so much for this. It was an amazing podcast. Thank you for letting me know that this is something that I can even consider for like a future business venture. But
I love it, man.
and also anyone that has actually listened to this episode or previous episodes, if you guys loved it, just share this with anyone that you may feel that need this type of value. Give us a review. It takes less than 60 seconds on a podcast, whether you're on Spotify, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, or whether you're on YouTube. Give us a review. Tell us what you think about Alex, and go to Alex website. Reach out to Alex. Reach out to him in social media. What's your website and what's your social media, Alex?
Yeah, brother. So www.storagewins.com if you want to talk about storage. Social media, Facebook is Alex Prado 15. So facebook.com/Alex Prado 15. And then Instagram, Alex Prado 25.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, guys, for being part of this amazing episode with Alex Prado. We're going to be bringing in great entrepreneurs in the REI space, just like Alex. And yeah, you guys know that you guys can even turn your wholesaling business into another type of business in the REI space. Is transition it very easily because you have learned a lot of skills. Or you can have it as another business where you can partner up with other people because now you have other skills in business in the REI space. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll see you next time. And that's about it.
Take care.
Thanks, Alex.